Hello and good morning, Holly Shields here, live from Kalkine Studio, and you're watching The Opening Bell. Let's cast an eye over how the Australian market charter is panning out today. Well, the Australian share market opened higher on the backdrop of a stronger Wall Street closing and surging iron ore and copper prices as well. Meanwhile, the US Treasury prices held gains on Wednesday, keeping Treasury yields lower as global stock markets traded mostly higher. On the other hand, US dollar stood firm after the US Federal Reserve released minutes from its latest meeting that largely stood on investors' expectations. At a mid-June meeting, Fed officials made it clear that substantial further progress on economic recovery has not been met as of now, and some of the market participants still felt conditions for the curbing bond buying that is supporting stock markets with cash would be met earlier than expectations, while other participants saw a less clear signal from the minutes. In addition to this, the Labor Department stated on Wednesday that new job openings have been at a record level this summer. It said the number of job openings rose by 16,000 to 9.2 million at the end of May. Conversely, however, hiring fell from 6 million in April to 5.9 million in May. The comments have enthused the markets, although officials couldn't say for sure when the labour shortage would ease despite a record number of jobs created. Looking at the market open trades, the ASX 200 climbed up by 0.7% to 7,380 level during the first half hour of open. Tech players Zipco and Nearmap stood out as top gainers, and nickel mines, Nuix and Seven Group also advanced. Plus, Netwealth soared on reporting strong growth in the June quarter. Meanwhile, Sydney Airport climbed to following reports that a consortium led by Macquarie Group is exploring a rival offer for the company. Meanwhile, WiseTech, Polynovo, AUB Group and Eagers Automotive were all the laggards during the early trades. Next up, before we jump to the ASX charter for today in detail, let's have a look at Friday's US market performance. Well, US stocks closed the session in green on Wednesday after minutes from the Fed meeting revealed that officials were divided on the economic signals. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones rose 0.3%, while the S&P 500 was up 0.34%, and tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite was flat. Meanwhile, US Treasury yields continued to fall on Wednesday, with a 10-year yield falling for the seventh straight session on worries that the economic recovery may be softening, while market participants assessed the minutes from the Fed's June 2021 meeting for clues to its policy path. Bond prices rose during the session, and the yield on 10-year Treasury notes fell 4.9 basis points to 1.321% after earlier tumbling to as low as 1.296, the lowest level since February. And onto the currency space, US dollar traded slightly higher after the release of the minutes of the Fed's latest policy meeting, showing Fed officials wrestling with the onset of financial stability and inflation concerns, but included no big surprises. The dollar index was up 0.135%, consolidating near its recent three-month high. Meanwhile, the Australian dollar traded below its important resistance level as market participants led on the country's central bank to keep the monetary policy easy for a long time to come. And now it is time for a short break, but stay tuned and I'll be right back with more trending updates for the Australian share market.
This is Andy Liu broadcasting from Kalkine Media Studio in Australia, and I'll be hosting the new Kalkine Wellness Show. The half-hour show will cover topics from how wellness as a concept has become even more significant during COVID, to how becoming vegan may improve your health, and much more. We are excited to showcase our live streaming show to our audience of millions overseas and in Australia. Tune in to Kalkine TV and join me.
Welcome back, I'm your host Holly, live from Kalkine Studio, and you're watching The Opening Bell. Well, now that we've taken a glimpse at the US market performance, let's now look at the major newsmakers in the Australian share market. To begin with, Netwealth Group soared on growth in net flows and FUM in the June quarter. The financial services company reported a rise of nearly 13% in funds under administration to $5.3 billion in June quarter, while the net inflows rose 102% to $3.1 billion. Meanwhile, the company's funds under management noted an uptick of 61% over the previous corresponding period. And next up, Worley soared on obtaining Red Sea Awards services contract. The industrial engineering solutions company has been awarded a services contract by Red Sea National and refining petrochemicals company for its greenfield integrated refinery and petrochemicals complex in Egypt. As per the company, the project will be located in the Suez Canal Economic Zone and will convert an estimated 4 million tons per year of crude oil into refined products and petrochemicals. Meanwhile, the financial services company AMP rose on global equities and fixed income business sales. AMP has announced that it has signed a binding agreement to sell AMP Capital's global equities and fixed income business to Macquarie Asset Management for nearly $185 million. The transaction will allow GEFI to benefit from Macquarie's scalable global operating platform. And on to the next stock under the spotlight. Bellevue Gold traded in the green zone on hiking resource estimates. West Australian Gold Explorer has hiked its resource estimate 25% to 3 million ounces at an average grade of 9.9 grams per tonne. And next up under the radar is BNPL player Worley Group, who inched up on reporting their June quarter growth driven by the UK. Worley says it has seen a continuation of growth across all regions, particularly the UK in the June quarter for this year. The company reported that its gross merchandise value increased to a record 184 million New Zealand dollars, with its UK GMV more than doubling year on year, climbing 107%. And Kalkine Resources soared on surpassing Tommingly production guidance. Kalkine is an Australian multi-commodity mining and exploration company with a focus on technology metals. The company announced that its Tommingly gold operations in West Central New South Wales had exceeded its production guidance of 50,000 OZ to 55,000 for the financial year of 2021. And another update from the BNPL player Payrite, who jumped on entering into a partnership with Mint Payments to integrate Payrite's BNPL solution into its online payments processing system. And now, before we go on, it is time for another short break, but stay tuned and I'll be right back with more trading updates for the Australian share market.
Property by Kalkine. Looking for a dream home? Well, that may sound easy, but it isn't. And from looking for a property that is the right fit for you in terms of cost and other factors, to zeroing down on the right mortgage plan, there are various aspects to consider. And for the latest slowdown in the property market, tune in on Kalkine TV with me, Sage. I will give the latest updates on the property market as well as real estate stocks to help you make the right decision. Keep watching Property with Kalkine.
Welcome back, I'm your host Holly, live from Kalkine Studio, and you're watching The Opening Bell. Let's have a glance now through the ASX sectoral charter. The Australian technology shares traded higher during early trades. On Wednesday, the tech-heavy Nasdaq 100 continued its massive uptrend, making a record high. A massive rebound of the ASX Information Technology Index, clocking a 2.5% gain on Wednesday, depicted the demand for technology is still there. UX, Afterpay, Zipco and Nearmap all traded lower, while Zero Limited and WiseTech soared. Meanwhile, Australian energy majors such as Beach Energy and Oil Search traded in the red zone amid a further oil price downtick. On Wednesday, crude oil prices retraced more than $1 US per barrel in another volatile trading session, as traders worried that this week's collapse in the OPEC meeting could eventually mean more upcoming supply is on its way. And Brent crude fell 1.5% as West Texas Intermediate crude shredded 1.6%. Both the benchmarks rallied over $1 per barrel earlier in the session. And onto the miners space, heavyweight miners BHP Group, Rio Tinto and Fortescue Metals soared on the board. Chinese steel futures increased on Wednesday as hot-rolled coals and construction rebar both settled more than 3% up, underpinned by expectations of production cuts. Benchmark iron ore futures for the September month delivery recovered from the lowest levels and closed the session 1% up. Meanwhile, copper prices traded higher, recouping losses from Thursday's session. The benchmark copper on the London Metal Exchange was up 1.6%. And on that note, the ASX listed copper players Oz Minerals and Sandfire Resources traded in the green territory during the early trading hours. And in the yellow metal space, Evolution Mining, Northern Star Resources and Gold Road soared amid a gold price uptick. On Wednesday, gold prices rose above an important level as the US Treasury yields fell after minutes from the Fed's June meeting. And on that note, that is just about all we have time for now. We'll be bringing you more stock updates in our upcoming shows during the day. Stay tuned for more live market updates on Kalkine TV across economies, markets and sectors. Holly Shields signing off.
Tune in to get the latest information.
Whether it's about market movements or the currency graph,
Sectoral coverage or industry news.
we cover it all on our news segments.
Be on top of the latest news
With Kalkine TV.